Yeah, for the first time ever, they had blizzard warnings in Louisiana along the
Yes,
border with Texas.
and the golf and that. I laughed. It's
Yeah.
like, wow.
My wife and I just came back from
Yeah, for the first.
Florida a few days ago, and it was in the 50s. We were at, yeah. Oh,
It was lower than that when we left.
oh yeah, it was lower than that when we left. So, and we took a cruise from Port Canaveral to Nassau and Disney Islands. So it was warm on the islands, but the more we came back, it was cool.
Well, it's funny because I've been watching the weather, the locations I'm going to be going to. I was like, oh, some of it's really nice. But I was surprised Orlando was like only 40 degrees. Like, that's not too warm. Now, granted, that's not in the middle of the daytime, but even in the middle of the day, I think it was like 47, 50. It's like, that's kind of cool down there.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been crazy weather. What did I hear? Hilton Head had 5 inches of snow.
Wow.
Too, and the weatherman that was vacationing there was calling in by phone to the radio station he works for, and he said, "Yeah, we're 5 inches of snow. We can't go anywhere because Hilton Head doesn't have any snow plows." So, and a lot of those places don't have plows, so they got to get them from other places.
I thought there was a couple people from Wisconsin going down there, but I'm not sure. I thought I heard
Yeah,
that briefly on the news.
could be, probably. I think they're calling for plows to get down there from all over different states.
It's funny that
Whoever's
one guy was
closest.
ice skating on down in New Orleans and that, you know, on the streets.
Yeah,
Yeah, New Orleans
crazy.
called it snowplows from Indiana. I think they had 17 snowplows now from Indiana.
Wow.
Wow. And just think, only 17 plows for a place the size of New Orleans.
Yeah, like the whole state. Yeah.
You know, Milwaukee has what, over 100 plows? And I don't think Milwaukee's anywhere near the size of New Orleans. But, oh, well, all right, we're going to get started here today. This is one of our days where we don't have a speaker. So welcome to the Digital Forum. The place that you can get questions answered, or listen about us talk about cruises and snow and weather and everything else. So we will open it up to anybody that has questions, either on the panel or listening. I see we got a pretty low turnout today. It's hard if I've got a couple things I'll show in Photoshop, but
Hey,
it
Jeff.
does. If yep,
I don't want you put you on the spot, but you and I have chatted about the differences between Lightroom LR and Lightroom Classic LRC. Now you were taking in a video from you were watching a video with who was it? Anyway,
Matt Klaskowski.
yeah.
I bought his course on Lightroom because I wanted to learn it, and
So I'm just, are you in a position, if so, we could put this off for another time maybe, but just to understand the differences between LR
sure.
and LRC. I mean,
Let me bring it up, and because I can use it for something that will let me not or reflections. Okay.
I think most people are using Lightroom Classic these days, aren't they? I don't know how many people are using Lightroom. It's the new web thing.
I've been
Yeah.
trying to use a little bit of both.
Yeah. Both seems to be I use both, and I've got reasons for each, and I'll go through them. But let me put up on my second screen, right? Yeah. So, yeah. So you should be able to see my window.
Nope.
No.
See your Zoom window.
So you're seeing my Zoom window. That's interesting. Oh, I probably picked the wrong screen. Just a minute. Okay. I could have swore I picked the right one. Should be that screen. Okay. Let's see if this works now.
Here we go.
So,
So now you're seeing that.
nice
Let me
museum
just-
shot.
Yeah, this actually isn't my shot. This is Ken's shot because I'm going to show how to get rid of reflections, and this is his final shot that he had. And the way that I use Lightroom, this Lightroom for, I guess, the cloud, or what they now just call Lightroom, is I use it as a browser because it works really quick. Here is that shot that he actually started with, and you see all the reflections, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I use it as just a browser for stuff that I don't want to put into my Lightroom Classic. I will use Lightroom because I can go to anywhere. I've got a set of favorites. Most of the stuff usually ends up on my desktop, so I've got that as a favorite. So I can go and say, well, Clint just sent me some photos from the hangar that he works in with EAA. And so I don't need that in my collection of Lightroom. So I end up using Lightroom, the regular Lightroom over Lightroom Classic, to look at these shots, because I can go through them real quick, and I can see what I want and do what I want with them, and not have to have them in my Lightroom Classic catalog. So since you get both with the Lightroom Classic subscription, I end up using both, but for different reasons. Now, I will admit I'm still learning how this works.
Jeff, question. So right
Sure.
now, where are these images stored?
These images are sitting on my desktop.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
this sounds very similar to Bridge. Did Adobe do away with Bridge?
No,
No,
and they
they
still
didn't.
have Bridge. And I use Bridge periodically when I have to work with other programs in Lightroom. So Bridge was actually the first choice that I used to go to when I wanted to do this. With Lightroom Classic, it's sort of nice because you've got, you can adjust the photo and not have to go into Photoshop and do all that kind of stuff. I would imagine they're going to get away with Bridge, but Bridge is still used if you're going to use InDesign and Premiere and all this other stuff. Bridge is still useful. Lightroom doesn't have very good video capabilities, really at all. So I end up, using all their different ones, especially since I get all their, I subscribe to all their products. So my subscription per month is nice and high, but so I use Lightroom when I don't want to bring stuff into my catalog. I've been using Lightroom for Camera Club because I got tired of having Camera Club's photos mixed in with my photos. So I actually have under my favorites, I'm supposed to have, and it looks like, I think it lost its connection again. I'm going to have to work on that. My Camera Club stuff is under my NAS, so my network attached storage. So sometimes it loses connection to that, which gets to be a pain to try to get to it. So I'm not going to look for it, but
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 this
I can-
doesn't give you the editing capabilities, right?
yeah, it does.
It does?
It does.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So if I would say this image here, if I wanted, I can adjust the exposure. You know,
So
bring
that
down
looks
the-
like Camera Raw.
yeah, and that's what it is. It's the same thing as Camera Raw. So it's built right into Lightroom. So, you know, if I get some of this stuff and it's just something I need to turn around and send to somebody else, and I go, well, you know, let's clean this up a little bit, you know, so it's got the same tools. I see here like there's a little bag of garbage here in the corner. I can get rid of that.
It's got the masking tools, Jeff.
Yeah, and it's got masking. So it's got basically everything that's in Camera Raw is here. So
There was
And
something I was doing the other day in Camera Raw filter in Photoshop, and I was looking for something that I do in Lightroom. I think it had to do with the lens, like the
lens blur.
chromatic aberration that's under the lens
Oh yeah.
profile or the lens adjustments in Lightroom, and they didn't have that in Camera Raw. But this is a good, I've been doing photo restoration lately,
Jeff,
and I
keep
don't
going
want,
down. The lens blurs at the bottom.
Yeah.
no, that's blurring the lens. That's not the same
But
thing.
I
It's
think it
under
might be
optics.
under optics. So yeah, here under optics, you got remove chromatic aberrations and enable lens correction. So you can click those both in, and you've got the controls if you want to change the profile of it. You can, I guess, looks like you can tell it what camera it might be. I don't know which camera you used here, Clint. It was your cell phone or just the Sony?
Yeah, it was a Samsung phone.
Okay, let's see. They may even have that in here.
Yep, Samsung.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you can do everything. I need to take another look at that.
Yeah. So it's handy for stuff that you do not want to put into your catalog in Lightroom Classic. So yeah, this stuff I'm passing on to a team that we're looking to rent this hanger from Clint's group, and it's just simpler. I can look at it. I can change the size of it. I can do all sorts of things. I could even throw this into the cloud and then give my team a link to it so that I don't have to try to email it out. So
Yeah,
there's
you
a
don't have to
lot
move
of,
it into a collection anywhere.
right, yeah, I'd have to take and select the images I'd want, make it into a, well, in this program, they call it an album.
Yeah, yeah.
And you end up going to cloud. And I'm still not sure, you know, there's ways to make this stuff. I'm still really rusty at this.
The thing you have to realize
Here's
is
my
this
mother
was-
as a child.
one thing you have to realize, this was done by a different group of software engineers than Lightroom Classic.
Yeah.
So it feels klutzy in the beginning, but once you find your way around, it can be very useful.
Yeah.
Looks like you've been doing some photo restoration too, Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah. This is my mother as a little kid. Found it in a box of photos that my parents had, and never knew we had it. I've never known what my mom looked like as a kid until about 2 weeks ago. So
Oh, wow.
Wow.
it's been fun. And some of this stuff I don't need in my Lightroom collection or my Lightroom Classic, but I'm not quite sure why it's in PSA Showcase. Or maybe it's in something else and it just showed up because that was the last thing I'd looked at. But these are all my collections that are in Lightroom Classic. So they do sort of hook up after a while, but one thing I found is it takes a long time for a collection in Lightroom Classic to hook up to the one in Lightroom. There's something about the timing that it takes for it to go up to the cloud and come back. I have found that sometimes it works better if you delete photos in an album here, that if you're using the Portfolio app from Adobe, which will take the images from your albums here and put them into that Portfolio app, it works a little quicker than it does in Lightroom Classic. So there are times where it seems one works better than the other for different things, but yet it doesn't always work that way either. I've had problems with it. You only get and the other trick is the amount of cloud space that you get. When you have Lightroom Classic subscription, you only get 20 gigabytes of cloud space. Now, that might have changed because they just changed all the subscription stuff as of January 15th. And I noticed some of the cloud storage either went up or disappeared, one of the two. Plus, they've also pulled out Photoshop from some of the subscriptions. So hopefully everybody's subscribing and has the annual subscription rate, and that should, I think, keep you protected. But yeah, you've got a lot of the same stuff. The reason a lot of people have started playing with Lightroom is that they never had this local tab before where you could get to your own hard drives and look at them. So that's what changed, and why all of a sudden you've got a lot of people starting to use this program over Lightroom Classic. Now, like Brian said, I'm having a hard time figuring out, because it's a completely different layout, and trying to get to some of the stuff is trickier. I still have a problem, say, getting the image into Lightroom, because I always have a hard time finding where that is. But you can go into Lightroom or go into Photoshop from here. But to tell you the truth right now, I'm not even sure how. Brian, do you remember?
No, I have not done that.
Yeah.
So Jeff, these pictures that you have in Lightroom Cloud, are they all on the cloud? Or when you say you see your hard drive, are those pictures also uploaded?
No, those pictures aren't uploaded to the cloud. The only ones that are on the cloud is if I go to the cloud icon, and it's basically where my Lightroom collections are in there. So like I have a North Carolina waterfalls. They aren't full-size images that are in the cloud. They're more smaller images because these are all collections from my Lightroom Classic. So it gets very confusing because when you use Lightroom, and I wish they would have called them something different, because this is really nuts, trying to go Lightroom over Lightroom Classic. But Lightroom, if you take and send a picture to the cloud, that's going to be a full-size picture. Lightroom Classic, when you create the collection in there, it's only sending a small size file to the cloud. So that's why I have something like 9,000 pictures in the cloud, and I still have quite a bit. I think I've only used 10 gigabytes of cloud storage so far.
Jeff, what I understand is it's like a thumb.
Right, it's a high quality thumbnail.
That's why I stopped using the uploading to the cloud, because the pictures weren't editable or yeah.
Right, and that's where it gets a little tricky. If I would edit this picture now, because this is in my North Carolina waterfall collection that's in Lightroom Classic, I can edit it. It will take and send that edit up to the cloud, and then when I open up Lightroom, it will then
Yes.
update the Lightroom Classic. It will update that photo. So I can actually,
Have you been doing that?
I don't do that because I don't want to do it. What I have in those collections or albums are finished photos. So I generally don't have to do that.
I'm wondering how accurate the edits would be if you're acting on a thumbnail. If you view them in Classic, are the edits the
Well,
same?
they're basically the same size thumbnail as what you'd be editing when you edit in Lightroom Classic. So for me, it's a medium-sized thumbnail.
But when I
So
click, sorry. When I
yeah,
click on Develop module in Lightroom, I'm not operating on the small version anymore. It goes out and gets the data, especially if you zoom in.
but all it does is create a larger thumbnail, and then it applies all that image to a file that then gets applied to the image. So you're always working on a thumbnail. It's not the full res file that's opened up. It's just a large thumbnail generally. It's pretty much like the smart previews that if you created them in Lightroom Classic, and then it just applies that so that when you export that image out to whatever size you want, it takes the file, applies all those edits, and makes it a permanent file. So you're always in Lightroom Classic or Lightroom working from a preview of some type because it's not opening the full file. The only time it opens up a full file is if you take that file from Lightroom Classic and move it into Photoshop. Then it opens up the full file, it applies the edits that you did, and then it opens it in Photoshop.
I didn't know
Because
that.
it's, yeah. So otherwise, the Lightroom would get so clunky and slowed down. But you've got all the important data that you need, in that thumbnail. Now, and that thumbnail is decided on when you set it up in Lightroom Classic as to what size thumbnail you want. And if it needs more of a thumbnail, like say you zoom into a section of the picture, it might take a little bit for that thumbnail to regenerate to go into the zoom that you want. If I go into Lightroom Classic here, bring that over. So right now, if I open that up, now that is just a standard size preview. Now my computer's pretty quick, but you see it takes a second because I haven't run this, and now it's loaded the preview to a larger size. And right now I'm at 100%. You also have, I believe, you can even go to like 400%. And now you'll see that it's got to render again to see it.
Yeah,
Looks like.
you can go all the way up to 1600%. It seems
Right.
like down to the pixel level.
Yeah, and it doesn't do you a whole lot of good, but that's why I usually keep my zoom at 100% because I just want to see 100% of the pixels, and that's sharp enough for me. And then that's the full size screen. Now, if you can go and adjust those settings, let's see, I believe I got, yeah, in your catalog settings. So my standard preview size is set at 1920, which is enough to fill up the whole screen of the computer. If you want the computer to work a little faster, you can go down in size, or you can go up to 2880, depending on the monitor that you have. For me, it's going to 1920 because all my monitors are 1920. And I go to a medium quality size, but that's all you're working with when you're looking at these images and you are doing editing. You're looking basically at a preview. The only time it turns it into a full-size image is when you go to one of the other programs, say Photoshop, Nik Filters, and all that, and because it needs to work with the whole file, and it's if you've done settings, and it applies settings to it. So they all work that way. But if let's see, I don't know how fast I could find, because I have a lot of collections. Let's see, that was North Carolina. See, and it's only ones that I've sent to the cloud, and a lot of these I don't send to the cloud. All right, should be down here. Oh, that's interesting. I thought that was North Carolina that we were in. North Carolina waterfalls. Yeah, that's weird. So I don't know how that one, or it may be one that I a lot of times I go through and I clear them out, but it seems like since I have both apps going, it maybe isn't clearing out the second one, unless I'm just blind. But yeah, it should be right around in here. Oh, it could be in a collection too, because sometimes I just pick one or two, something in a collection. Let's see, North Carolina would have been, could be the Smoky Mountains.
Yeah.
But then I have a lot of, see, and I've got collections and collections. And it could be, because it doesn't, now, and this is the other part that I don't think Lightroom has, is the collection groups. So these are all broken out from collection groups that I have, I believe. So it's weird. I only have certain ones, and one of my complaints with Adobe is they put the marker so small in this area of a collection for you to be able to tell that you're uploading it. And it drives me nuts because I can barely see that mark. So you can see it right here, like this is for a photo frame, here that it's syncing to the cloud, but I can barely see that. Why they don't make that a little more noticeable? And the same with this gates and doors. So I should be able to find that here. Oh. I hate when I don't get a scroll wheel. Gates and doors should be up. Come on. Oh, I hate that. Let's see. A lot of times I can do it this way. Come on. Yeah, I'm having problems lately with a mouse, so I wonder if I can do it with my pad. For some reason, yeah, grabs them, but I can't scroll with them.
Jeff, shouldn't you be able to do a search in Lightroom Classic for North Carolina?
Yeah, I might be able to do that too. Man,
But sometimes it gets so far buried in.
yeah, yeah, and that's sometimes the case. And for some reason, my scroll bar, there it goes. Man, my scroll bar is touchy today. Okay, so here's gates and doors. That was the same as what I had for gates and doors, which I just had. So you can see they're both, here's that same picture as this one. Now I can, usually when you get this arrow, it shows that there's some settings that change. So I could have done something in Lightroom that would change the metadata settings, and I would have to either overwrite or import those settings. and then it would update this image. So we can try it because this is an album I don't care that much about. Say I just really darken it. So that should be going up to the cloud, and all of a sudden but it can take a while. This should all of a sudden get darker. But like I said, sometimes it can take quite a while. And other days it just doesn't, it does it like the next day. So I can let you know if something happens with it. But so they're all tied together, but in different ways. These photos in the cloud are only 1920 by whatever, or probably not 1920 across because it depends on what size this is. This should be, so here it is, 1699 by 2650. It's a TIFF at 66.97 megabytes, but that's what's sitting on my hard drive over on my computer. What's actually in the cloud is probably a fraction of that in size, because it's not taking up that much cloud storage space. And I get, because I have the whole collection, I actually get 100 gigabytes, but I've only used 9.8 gigabytes of my plan. And here's where it does the syncing part. You can also connect your devices, which is another nice way to do it is I can connect my phone, so all my phone pictures are on here. And I haven't done that. I probably should, because then I'd have more access to it. And I actually use Lightroom Mobile on my phone because it's a nice way to take pictures. And that connects up with this, so you would have all of it in there. Now, I have no idea. I've never tried.
Well, with mobile too, it's a nice way to share pictures, to show people your pictures with your phone.
Right.
Do you use Apple or Android, Jeff?
I use Apple.
Because when I take pictures with Lightroom on my Android phone, I can't see those pictures unless I open the Lightroom app or bring them into Lightroom.
Lightroom
And
Classic.
that's a lot of the reason I don't use Lightroom on my phone.
Yeah, well, if you want to bring them into Lightroom Classic, you still have to connect your phone up and do that. But with Lightroom and Lightroom Mobile, you should be able, and maybe that means I am synced up. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure where it shows up for my phone. Like I said, I don't use it for a lot of this stuff. I wonder if... And there's a lot of things, like I haven't explored this. I don't do the people stuff because it really slows down your thing. I do have some, and but for it to sort through, it looks like it's getting better. I may have to try it again. I used to do it quite a bit. Yeah, and I have 11,030 photos. So, and you can see, like, if I go with what I don't know. Yeah, the last stuff I added in here was PSA Showcase. and then some of my family stuff that I keep adding in. But so it's catching a lot of stuff. Sort of interesting. I'm scanning a lot of
Richard Klug. Wow.
yeah,
I did.
yeah. He ran the Diamond Jubilee in 1967 for Menominee Falls, their 75th anniversary. I was just a little kid back then, but I scanned, actually, there's a whole set of, I scanned their booklet. I cut one apart and ran it through my scanner so I could have it all. It's sort of the history of Menominee Falls.
Wow.
So it's interesting that this got on there. I'm not sure how it actually got added in to cloud photos because I don't remember adding it to the cloud. So I'm going to have to figure out how some of that's happening. It's good because I want it, but
It might be somehow automatically set up for some reason.
yeah, I may have something set up in Lightroom Classic where I might have put this into an album or into a collection. But yeah, I don't remember doing something like that, but I've been working on so many different projects. But Lightroom has its uses for a lot of different things that you just may not want to put into your catalog in Lightroom Classic. And that's the whole reason that I'm starting to learn it. Matt Klaskowski's got a nice course. It's about 15, 18, 10-minute little things on the different sections for Lightroom. My problem is I get everything mixed up between the two programs, which gets to be a little tricky. You can share the stuff here. You can't see it because my computer has, oh, there it is. You go under File, and then there's an Edit in Photoshop that you can actually get to. So let's
Where
do
was that, Jeff? Show me again, please.
Yeah, I got to change my window share. Let me do that.
One thing is I would be just concerned is you're editing, I call it in two different softwares. Granted, it's the same software. I worry about, oh no, that's not what I wanted to do in that. I wanted to save the other one. I worry about editing the same picture in two different, I call it different softwares, and then messing up.
Right. Yeah, I try not to do that.
Because you're going to get cross-contamination, I call it.
Yeah.
Well, Glenn, you can do that a little bit with Photoshop and Lightroom, especially with metadata. A lot of times when I try to open a photo and from Lightroom to go into Photoshop, it says that it has some, I don't remember what the message is, but it can't because it has conflicting data, metadata.
Yeah.
So I've got a point where I keep everything, all metadata, most current and whatever Lightroom has.
Okay.
So are you seeing Lightroom Classic now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So it's under, I just had it, under File, you've got Edit in Photoshop, and then you've got two things that you can do, Edit in Photoshop or Open as a Smart Object in Photoshop. So yeah, it's under File. And then you also...
You're not in Classic, you're in Lightroom.
Right, this is Lightroom.
Yeah.
So you can...
Wait a minute, you've got your menu, Lightroom. It looks like Lightroom Classic is...
No, they call it Adobe Lightroom, and if I switch to Classic... It says Lightroom Classic up here now.
Oh.
And it's
And
got
then-
more modules too. I mean, it's got map,
Yeah.
book, slideshow, print, and web. You don't have
Right,
in LR. You only LRC.
right. So Lightroom Classic doesn't have all these functions, which is the other reason why I want, and now you can see Lightroom Classic, remember I darkened it in Lightroom?
Yeah.
Now it darkened it here. It took it a
Mhm.
while to get there. So you make a change in Lightroom, it will update it in Lightroom Classic. But yes, you're right. You don't get the map, you don't get the book module, the slideshow, the print and web. I don't think anybody uses the web module. I usually get rid of that. I do use the print module and the slideshow quite a bit. It would be nice if they would add that into Lightroom, especially the slideshow module, because I think I could use that for images that I don't want to bring into my Lightroom Classic. But yeah, you basically are getting library and develop, and also with Lightroom, you can't use plugins.
Right.
To use plugins with Lightroom, what you end up having to do is take and send the image to Photoshop and use the plugins in Photoshop.
No,
No.
no, that's not true.
Isn't it?
No.
I don't have any way to get the plugins here.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I thought you said classic.
Gets confusing.
Yeah. And that's what drives me nuts. Right. You're
Yeah.
right. Lightroom, not the classic, but regular, this mobile Lightroom is
Yeah.
what I called it, doesn't let you do
Yeah, okay.
plugins. Now, supposedly
Right.
they're
I'm
going to
sorry.
add that
I'm
to
sorry.
it. But yeah, it's when you're working with the two different ones, it can get very confusing because why they couldn't have just named it something else? It's stupid.
Yeah, I agree.
But yet they're
But-
connected, so I can see why they wanted to. They are
Yeah.
connected, so.
So if I go down to say here, because my demo was going to be to show Ken had, this was his finished one. That was the JPEG that he had. And that's his PSD. And this was the image that he had before. And in Photoshop, you can now get rid of reflections. And but you can only do that using raw files right now. So this is his raw file that he had started with. And why don't I just go through that little bit of demo? You've got all the same stuff for adjusting here in Lightroom Classics, or Lightroom, I should say. I think I'd adjust that just a bit more. Otherwise, that looks pretty good. This was a neat shot. Ken told me that they got lights on here to light it up, and he did a nice job of editing it. So I can take the image, but when you either have to go straight into Photoshop with the raw file, or the other way is to go as open as a smart object in Photoshop.
What's the better way, the smart object or?
Yeah, the smart object basically brings it in as a raw file that you can get to. If you open it straight into Photoshop, you're going to turn it into either a Photoshop or a TIFF file. So,
Yeah, I've been saving things to TIFF lately instead of PSDs, and one of the things that you lose when saving to TIFF is smart layers.
yeah,
They
I
flatten
save.
them.
Yeah, I save
Oh.
everything to PSD. I know I'm always going to be in Photoshop or always be with Adobe. At least I plan on it. So this is the file. It's a smart object because you can tell there's this little icon that shows that it's a smart object. And to get to it and edit it, you just double click that and it opens you up in Camera Raw. And then you can do all the adjustments. Now, to get rid of reflections, one thing you got to do before it will work is you need to go into technology previews and make sure that this box is checked, and this turns on all the new AI features in the panels. Once that's done, you go to the healing brush or the remove tool, and down here it says distraction removal. And I don't know, why is it telling me no?
Is it because it's a, oh, no, it's not a
It's
JPEG.
supposed to be,
It's a TIFF.
it should be a raw file. So Ken said he had the same problem. That's interesting. All right, so it's supposed to work if you bring it in. Because I did all sorts of research on that. You had to make sure you bring it in from Lightroom as a smart object because that's your raw file. Maybe I have something set because I don't generally have to work that way.
File name does say it's a TIFF though at the top of that, Jeff.
Yeah, it did. And I don't know why it's doing that because it should have been when you do a smart object. Why did it turn it to a TIFF? It's supposed to stay. Well, I reset my Lightroom because I had a problem with it. I had to start over from the beginning. And I got the feeling a bunch of my settings are not still there. So just to make life easier, I will just close all this junk off. And I'll go to the reflections folder. And I think it was this NEF 680, yeah. So that now it's brought in as a raw file, just doing it direct. I'm gonna hit auto just to fix it up a little bit. I don't know why auto wants to keep it so dark. I think it needs to be just a tad brighter. All right, now Ken said this worked really well, but you can see now reflections, you can click on reflections. It's supposed to, using AI, taking it up to the cloud and removing the reflections. Ken said it got rid of all of them completely. When I run it, it doesn't do that.
Does it leave the reflection at the bottom? I'll find out in a moment.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't
So-
do it all.
And you could see there's a slider here that you can adjust to see, bring back what was there or even to go all the way. And this is what it found. And you could see those lighter parts. So for Ken, I guess it did better. What I ended up having to do was to go and clean it up using AI. And it's not, it certainly helped. It is still something that's brand new. But
This is a
for
regular
me,
selection though, right? It's not removing a reflection, what you're using now, correct?
no, what I'm using now is just the remove tool.
Yeah, it's too bad they didn't add the ability to select the reflection you want to remove.
Right. And I got the feeling that might be something,
I mean,
and I can, I mean, it did get rid of quite a bit when I turned the eye on, but I mean, there's a little bit down here, which was easy. I mean, it's not bad for a start, and it's not going to be that hard to use the remove tool and, get this stuff removed. So it's certainly a start.
oh,
Yeah,
Put a
that
bug
didn't
there.
work. Yeah, sometimes you got to do it twice, right?
yeah.
Might not have gotten it all. Probably could turn on object detection and it would help. Although I have more problems with that, so I generally do it this way, but there we go.
Jeff, would
So
that work on lens flare?
On what?
On lens flare?
It might. I'm still trying to figure out what it all can do,
Mhm.
but it's getting it. I mean, this cleaned it up pretty decent. So I'm surprised at what it can do. I'm not sure to show overlay, show all the, yeah, it just shows what I had done. So I think it's going to be handy. I've seen demos where they've shot something like in a storefront window and they got this big glare and all of a sudden they could see inside the window. But that's always their demos. And some of their demos, I'd love to figure out where they find those images that work so well. Like I said, I looked for about an hour the other day and I finally said, Ken, you said you tried this and it worked well. Can you send me your files? So he was kind enough to send me his files because I couldn't find anything that when I get something with reflections, I just get rid of it. But it's a start. You know, as with everything that Adobe does, it's a start. And I think it's going to get better. I don't know if Luminar has something like this yet or if On1 does. We can find out because I do have a guy coming to talk to us about On1 and their program. His name is Chris Scott, and he's coming. I think it's April, if I remember right. I'm going to just try to take a look here because we do have a couple of good speakers coming up.
Yeah, that should be a pretty good one.
Yeah. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Schedule topics. Yeah, we've been doing this for 1, 2, 3, going on our 4th year. Yeah, next month I have Kevin Adams coming. He's going to be really interesting. He's doing shooting waterfalls at night, using the moon and such to light up the waterfalls, or just whatever available light is there to light up waterfalls at night so that you can get the stars and everything else coming in. Chris Scott is going to talk in April on On1 basics. And then I'm staying a lot on the night theme because I know a lot of people like to do it. Nicole Brennan is also going to talk about the basics of night photography for people that just want to get started in it. And so I've got a couple people coming. I don't have somebody for March. I'm still looking, but yeah. So, and let's see, we could try another one. Let's see. It's hard because my computer can't read the NEF files yet. So I don't know what they are. And that's why I end up using Lightroom Classic. Now, I wonder if, let's maybe try this. Let's
Neff is
see.
Nikon. Neff is Nikon.
Yeah, it's a Z8. Let me go into Lightroom preferences and see if there is a setting that I'm missing. And copyright. I should have that turned on anyhow, but I don't have copyrights. Oh, there is. Good. Okay, it must be in connected accounts. Huh. Yeah, this is, I guess they don't have something fixed size large. I don't use a mouse pad because I hate those things. Yeah, there isn't anything that shows how to adjust how a for the image to go from Lightroom to Photoshop? Usually
Isn't it
there,
under export?
that's what
Oh,
I
that's-
would have thought, but it's basically more your content credentials for when you, oh, I don't have any accounts, so it doesn't matter. So that's just an early access thing. Yeah, that's weird. See, I'm
Did you
gonna
go-
have to.
It's not an edit up on the top.
No, I don't know. Let's look. That's
How about if you
Yeah.
just click on the image? Right click on the image. Oh yeah, edit in. Yeah, edit in Photoshop. There you go.
yeah, but
Edit in Photoshop.
what I don't get is that when you do it as a smart object in Photoshop, it should be bringing in
I
the
get it.
raw file.
I get it.
And it didn't that one time. So I don't get that. For some reason, it's turning it into a TIFF when it goes into Photoshop, and I'd
Maybe-
rather have it go into a PSD myself, but when you do a smart object, it's supposed to keep it as the original raw file.
Okay, got it.
Weird. Well, like I said, I'm still learning it. I still go to this help menu quite a bit, and I need to go through more of their guided tours, I guess.
Well, the one frustrating thing I found, I did not find an easy way to filter on and delete everything that I had marked with an X to be deleted.
Yeah.
I couldn't find that at all anywhere.
I'm trying to think if there's. Well, we could try that here. So, yeah, you're right. There isn't, you'd think under photo there would be.
It has, you got your filters down on the bottom, but there's no
Yeah.
filter. Not that I
Yeah,
see.
you're right, Brian. Yeah, you mentioned that yesterday or the other day. Yeah, you can delete the photo,
You can delete
But
one
yeah.
photo at a time.
but that
Or
would
if you're in
really.
if you're in grid, you can. The only thing I could figure out was mark those that you wanted to delete with an X, and everything you wanted to save, put at least a 1 on it, and then you could sort, and then you could highlight easily all the X's and then delete those.
Yeah, that's really a slow process
Well,
compared
it's-
to Lightroom.
Yeah, it really is.
Can't
Anyway.
you select multiple photos at the grid view and delete them all?
Yeah, and yeah, that's what he's really saying. You know, in Lightroom Classic, you can hit the X to make it a reject file, and in Lightroom Classic, you can just go to I think it's either photo or edit, and at the very bottom it says delete all rejected files. In Lightroom, you've got to basically sort by not the file.
Yeah, but it's by star rating.
Oh, okay. And so you took whatever. See, now why can't you just have it show you all the rejected photos? Yeah, it's another iffy thing.
Maybe you got to pick the picture to delete. I don't know.
Yeah, basically that's what you end up doing. And when you're used to using Classic, where you just hit X to get rid of the image and then go and delete, do a mass deletion of all those rejected image. Here you basically have to sort, but I'm not even sure how you get it to sort. Just there's no way to sort for a
by
flag.
file name. So sort is down on the bottom,
Right? Yeah,
right
down
there.
here.
So there you sort by star rating.
Okay. but reject isn't a star rating. So so you ended up just rating them like 1 star or something?
Yeah, if I wanted to keep it, I gave it 1 star.
But
And then when I did the sort, they all came up, you know, all the X's were together, all the ones were together. So then I could just
yeah.
simply-
Yeah, there is some stuff that I don't like in Lightroom. I still can't. I'm still keeping my main stuff in Lightroom Classic.
yeah.
I just, like I said, I use this as a browser, and for that it works pretty well. There must be other ways around some of this. But yeah, if I hit X and then I can go and highlight it or pick out all the ones that are marked X. If you saw more, I don't have any more X. And then
But
you
yeah,
just can hit.
So when I got back from the zoo, you know, I had like 300 images.
Right.
And just go through and, you know, I don't know. It
Yeah.
worked for me. I mean, you can delete one at a time, just like in Lightroom.
Well,
Or
if
can
you
highlight-
have one image there, Jeff, marked with the delete flag, if you flag more than one, does that menu item change from delete one photo to delete however many?
It does if you highlight them.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you have to mark them with a delete flag. Mark a delete flag on that one.
Yeah. So now I've got 2 of them.
Now
that
do
are
the
marked.
menu and it should say 2. No, it didn't.
Yeah.
Can you go down to that pull down menu on the bottom again? You know, like where it only showed like one star and stuff like that. Will that pop up in there about?
Yeah. I don't understand why it doesn't pop up with
Okay, yeah, no, still not.
ratings. You know, there should be one for
Delete
pick
all.
and non-pick, because
Yeah.
what would the reasoning be to make picks or reject picks if you can't sort them to get them together? Because that's what I do. Is if I go, well, this is my favorite image, I usually, you know, and I guess P doesn't work on here, so you have to hit the pick flag, say I like that image, and I picked it. That's great. And then these 2 I didn't like. I mean, yeah, the reject flag has darkened them, which helps. But say I like this one, so I hit the pick. And this one I didn't like, I hit the reject.
Look under photo at the top menu. I think on regular Lightroom, there's a photo.
Yeah, it's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there.
And Brian, you looked for that and can't find it?
Right, it's not there.
Yeah,
Just there
Wow.
now, it's not there.
Wow, that's surprising.
yeah. It's
That sounds like you could file a bug on that.
I vote for that.
Yeah, you can do it if you have an account there.
yeah. I'll have to. Yeah, and I've got an account, and I sometimes do ask them questions on their forum, because it's weird. You know, you would think there'd be a way to sort for, you know, the pick flag and the reject flag, and you know, once you see them, then you can you know, here I don't have that many, so I could highlight the 2. And what if is it just delete? Yeah, you can delete and move them to the trash. I can then hit delete, but
I don't know. I was able to sort them. I had 1s and X's, and I did a sort, and they all came up, all the X's at the top and all the 1s at the bottom. And
all right. Well, okay. So you sorted by star rating.
I thought so.
So Well, I guess these three don't have any star ratings, so they came first. Then it's the threes and the fours and fours.
Yeah, so now you could just highlight the X's and
Yeah,
then delete them.
So
yeah.
if you wanted to delete one of the fours, that would be a problem.
No, you can.
just highlight that and delete that individually.
Yeah, you basically
That's
would,
easy.
hold your, what is it, the Option or Alt key. So if I wanted to get rid of that one, then I can hit delete and it would delete those three.
But
It's
if
a
you've got
klutzy.
it's klutzy. If you've got 300 files, like Brian said, and you've
Yeah,
got some here and there that you've marked as delete.
No, but
go
you
back and-
sort them. You sort them, and all the X's, all the rejects came first, and all the ones came after the rejects.
yeah.
Then you just highlight them, and that was easy. Once I figured out how to do
Well,
it.
even if the reject is marked as a 4?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I don't know.
What
I don't
happens
know.
when I'm-
If you have a, I don't know about that one. I don't know how they sort that way. I didn't have any that way.
Yeah, I guess you really don't want to reject a 4-star rating, and that I think you would want to keep it.
Well, why would you have an X on it then if you wanted to?
yeah,
You gotta
Yeah,
make,
it might
gotta
be a
use your-
duplicate.
gotta use your head a little bit. You can't have the software figure out what you wanted, what you didn't want.
yeah,
That sounds reasonable, doesn't it?
yeah. No, but it is klutzy. It's not as smooth as what Lightroom does. So I don't get,
Lightroom Classic.
yeah, Lightroom Classic.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's a great
Yeah.
way of messing up. I like I said, I just worry about deleting pictures. Just stick with one. I mean, I understand with this regular Lightroom, if you use your phone, using it, the cloud and that. But when you're trying to work with both in that, I think it's easy to mess up.
yeah, and that's why I won't go into my regular photo archive with Lightroom. That I do everything then in Lightroom Classic. I only use Lightroom basically for stuff like what you sent me, Clint, where if I wanted to look at those hanger shots a little better, I can look at them and go through them nice and quick.
So you
And see-
downloaded these, you downloaded those onto your desktop, right?
Right, they're sitting just on my desktop, and I mean, I could look at them through the little image on the desktop and open them in preview, but this is a lot easier, and I always have this program running, and I just have, under browse, under my favorites, I've always got my desktop as a favorite, so it's real easy to find the hanger photos, easy to get to those reflection photos. I don't think there's some stuff in that. This is an image that our club's going to process for the next meeting down in Smokies. I don't remember what I've got these for. I think I needed an image to demonstrate something with, but these are from reenactments. And the same like here, I sometimes have different images. Right now, I don't have anything in there.
Bartender license.
Yeah, I'm now a legal bartender. Stuff I do, but here
Hey,
I've
Jeff,
got like,
you spent a good hour on my question. I really appreciate it.
yeah,
There was some good interaction on it, and so I don't know if
here's
anybody
Chris
else has
Scott, the guy
anything
we're going to
else.
have in April. I know he's got more photos in there.
Good information though, Brian. I'm glad you asked the question.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
this is Kevin Adams. I don't know why there's not. Yeah, he's got a lot of. I mean, just to show a sneak preview. Look at that for a shot. And this is not AI. This was. This looks like one of the solar eclipses, or lunar eclipse.
Lunar, yeah.
Shot at night, The waterfall, I don't know how he lit up the waterfall, if it was with a flashlight or just available light from the moon. But
Yeah, the
Well, the
moon was
moon, you're
behind
looking
it.
at the moon.
Moon was
Yeah.
behind it, couldn't have lit it.
So, but yeah, I'd say a flashlight, like light painting.
yeah, it could be. We'll find out about it, how he ends up doing a lot of these, but these are all done at night. And I just think,
Oh,
Yeah, that's a cool one.
you know, some of this stuff is really neat. I mean, combining, you know, you never think about finding a waterfall where you can see the Milky Way. And I've been following this guy for years, and he's always wasn't doing group presentations like this. And he finally started doing it, and I go, there's just a complete different look photographing this stuff at night. You're using the moon to light it up a lot of times.
Well, that one right there looks like it's a composite because the waterfall, to get that kind of a smooth waterfall, you're going to have a long exposure. But if you have a long exposure, the stars will be turned into star tracks.
Yeah, but you can do that with a 10-second exposure. And
Waterfall at night?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
If
10
he's
seconds?
got bright lights on it, maybe.
yeah. He maybe has a light shining on it. That's what we'll find out. I mean, I'm not going to try to guess because there's so many different ways you could do it. A lot of people use a light to do that. It could be that there was a light somewhere lighting it up. Although,
that's quite a distance.
yeah.
Unless
But,
there's somebody on the shore on the other side.
I don't know if there's anything.
Well, we'll look forward to his presentation.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited for it.
13-second exposure at f2.8 ISO 6400. So,
Wide angle 14mm lens.
yeah.
Oh, even
Maybe.
ISO 6400. Wow.
Yeah.
It didn't get much noise.
No, so it'll be interesting. I think, so I was excited to get him because I think it gives you another option of shooting waterfalls and other, you know, objects like that. I know Ken and I, on one trip up north, when we couldn't shoot the stars because of a full moon, we started photographing different things that were lit up by the full moon, and it just gave it's like having a big reflector in the sky.
Yeah.
So
Well, you could have done this by blending some photos
Yeah.
together, though.
yeah, he may have shot multiple photos. It looks like he used a light because you're
Yeah.
seeing how dark the rest of the woods are, but yet the waterfall's lit up, and that could have been a spotlight.
Yeah.
Well,
to get those stars as sharp as they are, or not long. There's some of them that look like they're a little long. when
yeah,
you look at
that
it, but
yeah, a
but,
14mm lens, 10 to 15 seconds is about the time that you'd use, and he's
Mhm.
right in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before you'd start getting any, they might be slightly elongated, but I
Yeah.
can't zoom in because it's a small file.
it just
But
looks like some of them are elongated a little bit, but
yeah,
not much. So okay,
yeah,
I haven't done
So-
much night photography at all, so I have no idea what you have to go through for all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's he's right in the ballpark for. I usually use 15 seconds at wide open and 6400 ISO. And then I have to run it through a noise program to get rid of the noise. But that's a typical one for shooting the Milky Way.
yeah.
And
once it warms up, I might try it but I'm not about to go out there at minus 10
No.
degrees and shoot.
and right now the Milky Way isn't in an area that's easy
No,
to
it isn't.
photograph.
No, you got a couple
Um,
months ahead, don't you? About
yeah.
March or April, I think, for us. somewhere
Right.
in that area.
Yeah. April or May, when the weather's is still cool. Actually, April and May, and I found September, October, November are also good times where it's still pretty much visible. During winter, you're getting the tail ends of it, and sometimes you get the tail ends of it depending on what time of night you go out there to photograph it. And I found that as you get into fall, you got a fairly good portion of the Milky Way showing.
You mean the
At
galactic
10 or-
center, right?
Yeah, the galactic center. You don't get the whole thing, but you get quite a bit, depending on what time of night you want to shoot. If you wait till the middle of the night, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, then you can get it, the whole thing. But if you shoot it at 10 or 11 at night, you're getting one of the tail ends of it, which still gives you some pretty good photos.
Can you pretty well see it with your eyes without the camera?
Yeah.
Because I know I had some northern lights. I didn't even notice there were northern lights going on when I was out one night shooting, and it wasn't
Oh,
that far
okay.
after dark. And all of a sudden, when I looked at the photos, oh my goodness, there's not northern lights. I couldn't see them with my eyes. So
Depends on how dark it is. I've
Yeah.
been down in Mexico on the coast shooting the Milky Way with the darkest skies I've seen anywhere in the world. And you could see the gas clouds in the Milky Way with the naked eye. I was pretty amazed.
Trying to see if I've got any Milky Way shots here, but they're all usually mixed in with my, I do have a couple. So like this one here, you're getting
Where'd you-
some,
Where'd you shoot these?
this is Split Rock in Minnesota. The
I was gonna
lighthouse
say Lake
is,
Superior. Yeah.
yeah, it's Lake Superior. So this was shot, September 26th.
What's the light on the above the horizon?
It's the city. There's a lot of light pollution out there. Some of it's light pollution. Some of this is just the green is atmospheric pollution that shows up, and you get a little bit of green. But
Are
you
the
could
UP
see,
Peninsula.
yeah, you could see all this pretty well. But I'm trying to. Usually, it shows me the time. Well, okay. You're gonna be picky about it. Let's see.
Probably have to scroll down then.
Yeah.
10 years ago. Mhm.
Yeah, it was shot a while ago. I haven't been able to. Okay, so exposure time, shutter speed, f-stop. Well, actually, I want all that stuff. For some reason. Now, like I said, I had to redo my Lightroom, got running really slow. So, so this was 16 seconds at f4 with a 16 millimeter lens. I believe it's a 16. I got so much data now.
No, 35. It's a 35 millimeter.
Yeah, it's a 16 to 35. It must have been at 35 millimeter.
Okay.
Oh no, here it is. It's hidden. It's right at the bottom. It shows 16.
Looks like you have an airplane and a meteor trail there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's an airport. With the way you're shooting, I don't remember what, but yeah, we had a lot of airplanes flying through, and that. But here I could show you. These are some of the raw files that I didn't pick, that I haven't processed even. So you can see it shows up pretty well. But we were shooting. Usually it has the time because I've got that all set. But this was not late at night. It was like 11 o'clock or so. Some of these I've processed out. I love doing these. I just don't get up north lately enough anymore. But we were getting some good colors. I don't know if that's sometimes aurora or if it's just the atmospheric conditions, being that this is at Split Rock, which is pretty far north. But But yeah, I got to clean this stuff out. There's a lot of, we had other spots this is when we were waiting for it to get dark. You could see it kept getting darker and darker. And was going to try doing some lighting of it. But then finally it starts to show up. But yeah, I love shooting Milky Way. It's fun. It's nice. I'm a night person, so it works a little easier for me. But like I said, it's usually 10 to 15 seconds. This is 16 seconds at 16 millimeter. And
Great lens.
yeah. Yeah, I sort of hate that I got rid of it, but I think the 14 to 30 that I now have is going to do just as well. Now I just have to figure out how to get up north.
Well, I'm sure it will, but just that 16 to 30 on my 800 was great. So
Yeah. I went with an 800 and I went to a D850 and now I'm at a Z8. So
yeah,
just wanted to get stuff lightened up. So I'm going to stop my share here. Anybody have any other questions or ideas to bring up? I know I got Marty all bored because all we talked about so far is Adobe products.
Well, we can talk about
What you've done, Jeff, is you've reaffirmed my decision to stay the hell away from any Adobe product. They're so convoluted, so screwed up that I would never touch one with a 10-foot pole.
okay. Well, you're a JPEG shooter, aren't you, Marty?
Yes, sir.
Right.
So, Marty, what do you think of the changes for the getting rid of the geofencing for drones? I think it's great.
Yeah, so I've got mixed thoughts on that. I think it is great for those of us who actually follow the rules, but I think what it's going to do is it's going to embolden the idiots that don't follow the rules or don't know the rules, and ultimately down the road probably make it even harder for us that do follow the rules.
Yeah, I live near the airport, and I've been trying to. There's some trails down by the water that I would love to get up 20, 30 feet and fly, and I get LANS approvals from the FAA, and my drone won't fly. I liken it to automobile manufacturing is not allowing your car to run in places that it deems restricted, and if you work on an Air Force base, you can't drive to work. So,
I think it is a good thing in that respect. Those of us who understand and know the rules.
The FAA should be the one running it, not the manufacturer.
I've always said that. I've only been limited one time when I was out trying to do shots that was right in Stevens Point, and the runway approach came right over the building I was trying to shoot, and DJI would not let me take off. And you're right, I had LANS approval and FAA was fine with it. It was just DJI, so it just really screwed me up on that particular shoot. I mean, and again, I didn't have to go all that high myself. I mean, if I went up 50 feet, I'd probably been high enough to do what I needed to do. But well, I don't know. I mean, I get DJI, they did it to try and quote unquote help the industry, but they really hurt those of us again who are Part 107 or who do know and understand the rules.
Yeah, I went through the process of getting the certification to override it one time, just once, and it took a lot of work and a lot of forms to fill out and a week to do it.
Yep, exactly. It's just horrible. So I am glad they did away with it. They should never have been allowed to do it to begin with. That's the FAA's responsibility and each individual pilot. But for years they've done it, and oh well, it's gone now. I hope for good.
Yeah, I upgraded my drone the other day, but I haven't been out to any of the parks where I couldn't fly before and tried it because of the cold weather.
Yeah, I've updated mine, but say the same thing. I haven't been anywhere. I've only been out flying once. That was last Friday. We had a little fire here in town. I got up and got some shots of it real quick, but so the software works, but I wasn't in a restricted zone either. So,
well, that's got to be kind of cool. I was thinking because they keep on showing Port Washington, the Lake Fog. that would be pretty cool how cold it's been to get some unique shots.
Yeah, there's a Milwaukee photographer that's been shooting, that shoots that every winter, that I've been following on Instagram, and they're really beautiful shots. But mostly that shows up with video, not still shots.
Okay. Yeah, that one guy that you follow, he's a very talented, my God, gorgeous pictures
Yeah.
and video.
Yeah, he's getting to be pretty well known photographer around here. Nate, I think is his name.
I'll have to look for it. I haven't seen that, but I haven't had a lot of time to follow new ones. I'm always looking for new people to follow and possibly bring them on here. I mean, it'd be fun to, have them talk about and show what they're doing with some of that stuff.
Yeah, that
Well,
would be fun.
What's really
But-
cool is photography. It's really a broad range of photography, whether it's cars, aviation, drones, models, product view. There's so much out there. Commercial, real estate.
Yeah, and that's why I keep trying to bring in photographers from the different types of fields that they can be in, just to get everybody a little more broadened view of what you could be doing, and or maybe you find something new that you'd like. We need to do some more probably on drones, especially with the summer coming up, and that I don't know that many. Maybe Marty, you can find us some more people to bring in.
I actually put together a little keynote presentation for drones, about an hour long, that I've done to a couple camera clubs already. And basically what I'm covering in that particular PowerPoint or keynote or whatever you want to call it, is kind of the start of taking you through the process of, okay, I want to go buy a drone. What do I need to know? What are the rules and all that? So it's more about those dynamics of owning a drone rather than up shooting. I do have images as part of it as well towards the end, but I spend the bulk of it, going over the basics of drone ownership.
No, that would
Basically illegal.
maybe we should do that one, Marty.
I'd be happy to do it. I mean,
Because
probably
I'm
bored
not.
somebody else that doesn't, just like I was bored with your Adobe.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be people that are going to be bored. I mean, even like when we get the On1 speaker, I know there's a lot of people that don't use On1, but it opens them up to a possible program that might either be a replacement for Lightroom and Photoshop, which On1 is.
Yeah.
But I'm like you, I won't touch On1 because I find it way too confusing compared to Lightroom and Photoshop, because I grew up with Lightroom and Photoshop before any of these other
But after today, you seem pretty confused with Lightroom and Lightroom. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I'm confused with the one version of Lightroom because I don't use it enough. The Lightroom Classic, I pretty much can do almost anything with. So that one, I mean, yes, and I still have problems with it. I've had it crash where my catalog got corrupted, and that gets a little frustrating. And then you start thinking, do I need to have a Lightroom that has a catalog? Where On1 I don't think uses a catalog. It just checks your hard drives, right?
So right, exactly. So with On1, you're utilizing, much like Luminar, you're utilizing your own file structure.
Yeah.
And so that takes the whole catalog aspect out of it, and to me makes it a much more simple program to use just for that reason.
Yeah. And
But
that's yeah.
Marty, I tried using On1 when it was young, and I couldn't get it. It crashed every time I tried to bring it up, and I uninstalled it and never went back.
I don't know. I've been using it for years. I've never had a crash on me, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also use On1. I got the last three On1s, but then I just did purchase, Lightroom and Photoshop, Lightroom Classic. So I see some advantages in each one. But boy, that Lightroom and Photoshop, boy, that's really an in-depth learning curve on that.
And they
Yeah.
always were. I mean, going back to the early versions of Photoshop. I mean, I used Photoshop up to the CS6, and it was always a huge learning curve, version to version to version.
Yeah. It is with
Yeah,
any of these programs with all the stuff that they shove in them. So,
Yeah, just look at the simple Windows programs we had back in '95 compared to what you have today. So,
yeah.
I know I set
Yeah.
up a whole lab back in 1995 using Windows, and that was a pretty simple process. I wouldn't even try to do that today. So,
Yeah, it can get
Yeah.
a pretty big beast.
So I'm curious for the Apple users to see what Apple does with the program Pixelmator Pro that they acquired. It's another photo editing software I've been using for a number of years, probably back since they came out in 2017. And it's been a great program, and it can do some really cool things. It's actually a photo editor, as well as a what do you call what's InDesign? That's a graphic design program too.
Yeah. Graphic design. Yeah.
So to see how Apple integrates that, or do they keep it as a standalone program, or do they integrate it into Photos, or what they do with it, that'll be really interesting. But for the Mac users, if you've never looked at Pixelmator Pro for $50, it's worth every penny of it for some of the tools they have in it.
I'm sure the business model calls for them to be in competition with Adobe. There's a lot of money
Yeah.
out there, and I'm sure they're after a piece of that pie too. So.
Well, I tend to agree with that to a point, Steve, but here's the thing. If that was the case, why didn't they keep Aperture? Because Aperture was a phenomenal program that would have given Adobe run for their money when they first came out with Lightroom. And I think that what Apple did was made an agreement with Adobe to say, okay, you do Lightroom, we'll take Aperture away, and we'll just call it good. That's what I think.
It's all called, that's all done by your development and your engineers. Those guys change, like, I'd change whatever. And but that's a business decision. I learned a long time ago that sometimes you take the wrong turn, but then you end up doing a U-turn coming back. I learned that at AT&T a long time ago. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's hope Apple's going to do that with Aperture, or with Pixelmator Pro, is just that, make it a pro, just like they have with their video editing Final Cut Pro. They've kept that going all these years, and it's either you use Final Cut or you use Adobe
Premiere.
Premiere, yeah.
Adobe Premiere. But or now the new one that's really taking over is Blackmagic Dissolve.
Yes.
Their video editing has really come a long way, but that's to do complicated edits. I still use Final Cut for a lot of stuff. A lot of people could use iMovie and Apple.
Like your own stuff. Exactly what I use.
Pages is pretty much turning into InDesign. It can do almost everything that InDesign can do. And yet there are other third parties. Affinity has a full suite of products that aren't really much more than $50 for their Photoshop comparison. For the InDesign, they have a publisher that's $50. I mean, I've got them all. I bought their whole set, and what's nice is they can read all the InDesign files and transfer them over. And if InDesign gets too expensive or too crazy, I'm ready to switch back to Affinity. So yeah, there's a lot of different uses. I just like what Adobe does with the being able to do the AI generating stuff that's out there.
Yeah, which, I mean, once Chris comes on in a couple months and talks about On1, I mean, On1 it has quite a bit of AI built into it, although much more subtly. They're not generating images from nothing, but they're helping in the workflow of fixing things in a much quicker manner.
Right.
which to me is a ethical way of using AI rather than generating images from scratch. Tony.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tony.
Oh, thank you. Yesterday I sat in on a presentation of what do you call it? It's called Canva.
Mhm.
It's a
Oh, okay.
free
It's a program that you use for graphic design and whatnot. I use that on occasion. Yeah.
yeah, and it was put on by our little library here, and all of the posters and pamphlets that they have at the library, they've they've used that, and it's so intuitive and simple, and you can drag in your photos, you can use their photos, that they have animation, they can do GIFs, that with movement stuff. It's really a nice program and very simple to use. So
So here's something really interesting about that. Canva last year actually bought Affinity Photo. So
it bought what?
Affinity Photo, Affinity, the
Oh,
software
yeah.
stuff was just talking about. Canva actually owns that software now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I have the Affinity, all three of those.
Yeah. So last year Canva bought Affinity.
All right.
Yeah.
Kind
And that gives
more in that
gives
range.
Canva a nice comparison against Adobe, because now they've got all the basics that Adobe would have, and because Adobe has Adobe Express to do the same thing as Canva, except that I will admit Adobe Express gets very frustrating, and I think Canva is a lot easier to use than Adobe Express is. But
I should mention about Pixelmator Pro again. It also does video editing in there. So they really developed quite a program.
yeah, sounds
that
like it.
I think is going to be. I think if Apple uses it right instead of gutting it, it's going to be quite an addition to their portfolio.
Yeah, maybe they're just gonna merge it into their Photos program.
I'm hoping they don't do, Jeff. I really
Yeah.
they keep it as a standalone and then build on it to really make it a true competition for what Lightroom is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wait and see. It's all a money game, and we're just stuck as pawns in it, giving them the money, whether it's Adobe, Apple, Luminar on one. And there's even a lot more programs out there. Those are just the ones we talk about because they're the top ones right
They
now.
are, but I always find it interesting. Like if I'm, like zipping through Flipboard and I come across articles comparing image editing software programs, more times than not, On1 is not one they're comparing. They're comparing Photoshop and Lightroom, and they're comparing Luminar and even GIMP, for God's sakes, but they leave On1 out of it. And I always find that really intriguing. It's like, why don't they include something as mainstream as that?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, because to me, On1 is one of the top ones that I think of when I come to image editing. I mean, I used both. On1 I used to use a lot for God, they had portrait stuff that was pretty good, I think, at one
The
time.
portrait program, or part of it, is really good. Their effects is really good.
The noise is really good too.
Right, their denoise is phenomenal. You got to remember that On1 Photo really came out of what was it, Gigapixel? Was that their original?
Yeah, Gigapixel was their
original program, and
yeah.
And so, their resizing program is just top notch. I mean, they really have a lot to offer and a lot going for it.
Where are they
Yeah.
located, Marty? Are they a domestic product?
I
have no idea.
I forget.
I want to say UK, but I could be wrong on that. Keep talking. We'll come up with the answer here for you.
Yeah.
I missed the topic.
On1 software.
Oh, On1. Okay.
Where's it from?
Okay. Affinity is England.
Yeah.
I hear a kitty.
Yeah, I got a cat that's gonna probably show up on my screen in a minute. And I see all their products.
There's a tail in the.
Yeah,
Yeah, mine showed up a little while ago. He's ready for his lunch, I guess.
yeah, this guy just wants attention. He'll lay down near my computer where it's nice and warm and sleep. So
Does he lay on your
Uh,
keyboard?
yeah, and that causes problems too.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's gotten my programs all into a mode that I have a hard time. Huh, I'm reading
Mailing
about.
address is Salem, Oregon. So
Oh, okay.
it might be a US based company.
I don't know. I'd
Well,
be surprised if it was US based,
Why?
but might be.
Yeah, you're right. It is Salem, Oregon, but yeah, it doesn't really.
That's pretty close to Asia, so.
If you look at the you go down to the bottom of their website, in the very last line of their footer, they got copyright 2025 on one, and then it says made with a heart in, and they keep scrolling through different cities in the country here.
I'm betting it looks like it's Oregon. I bet they just have programmers across the country.
That's what I wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, because it looks like they're all across the United States, and that would certainly make sense. There's no reason that they have to be in one building to do this stuff anymore.
That might be
But,
support offices though, right?
Yeah, could be.
I think the On1 is better for sharpening than Lightroom and Photoshop. It just seems like it gets a little bit better, sharper detail.
Yeah, I haven't tried it, so I don't in a long time. I mean, it used to have some really good. They had a lot of standalone products, and now they're really down to the On1 Photo Raw. Although they still have all the other AIs that I was using at one time. I still think Topaz probably has the best for noise out of anyone, but their program has also gotten so expensive that I have a hard time justifying renewing it every year or two.
I'm
because of all-
finding, Jeff, both Topaz, I use the sharpening and the denoise AI for those a lot, but I've been finding they don't work very well on old restoration photos.
Okay,
But I have an older version too. I probably should
yeah.
have, but it's so.
And I'm working with Topaz Photo AI, which has all the sharpening, enlarging, and denoise features in it. They basically took all their separate programs and now are turning it into one, and they've gotten rid of all the well, you can still get their separate programs, but the price of the separate program is the same as if you bought Topaz Photo AI. So you might as well buy Photo AI and get all the different features in one program.
Have you been using it on your restoration?
No, because I don't need it for my restorations other than to enlarge them.
What software mostly do you use for that?
Photoshop. That's to clean up a photo for restorations. I've always just used Photoshop.
Jeff, there's been a question in the webinar chat for a little while about a setting.
Yeah, I saw that one, and I've been thinking on it. I'll put the question out to maybe somebody knows, but he's setting up a new desktop system, and he found an old copy of Lightroom Perpetual for Mac. It's version 6.12, and he needs 2 updates to update to the current from Adobe. Any suggestions where I can acquire the older updates? I don't think you can, to be perfectly honest. That's such an old program that I've been thinking, and Adobe stopped supporting the perpetual license one a number of years ago. So I don't think you'll be able to find those updates because they really don't want you to use it. And I'm not sure, well, you must be on a Windows system because a Mac system, it would not run that version of Lightroom anymore.
Yeah, I wonder what version of Windows it was designed for. Maybe it's
Yeah.
probably Windows 8 or something, Windows 9. It's
Yeah, so trying to think, it's got to be 10 years old by now. So whatever Windows might have been 10 years ago.
Windows 8, Windows 9, and
Yeah, what was the major one? Windows XP?
XP, yeah.
Yeah, I bet you it's XP that it's for. But yeah, I don't think you're going to find the updates. You can try the forum.
I was still on a Mac.
Yeah, well, you could try it. I don't know. It's going to end up running on a Mac in what they call Rosetta, because I know it's not going to be designed for the new silicon chips. So it can run in Rosetta, which means it may run a little slower. Although that Rosetta worked halfway decent when I used it for a little while. Yeah, all you can do is keep searching for it, but I don't think you're going to find any updates other than because the perpetual license just basically stopped after a while. So
Yeah, it's like no different than any old, let's say Windows XP or Windows 7. They stop supporting it after a while and they don't.
yeah. And Mac supports a couple of versions backwards, but that perpetual license for Lightroom, that's pretty old. I still got a friend that's using the perpetual license for Photoshop, so that he has, and that would have been, well, Marty's Photoshop, I think CS was the last perpetual one, wasn't it?
Yeah, CS6 was
Yeah.
the last one.
Yeah, my friend still was using it. I don't know if he's on a Silicon computer or not yet, but it runs, but not real well. But yeah,
On Capture One, I just saw an article where it was owned by a Danish company, Phase One, and then they split it off into two companies. So it looks like it still might be owned basically by a Danish corporation.
yeah. Capture One was really designed for a bunch of the medium format cameras that were out there that went digital, Hasselblads and
Yeah, right. And they were even
and all
talking in the
that.
article here that they're thinking maybe Hasselblad might be in the mix too. So
Yeah, I would think, because I thought they were the ones that had it originally.
Yeah.
And Capture One is an interesting program. A lot of people liked it. You just don't hear much about it these days. So there
it
is.
says
There's
here, it says Capture One continues to grow by converting existing customers to subscription and acquiring new customers through a software application portfolio. That's just what I found on the Webby.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyways, it's interesting. Like I said, a lot of these high tech stuff, very little of it's owned by companies in
by
the USA anymore. So
U.S. I got a number of them that are in Ukraine. I'm still surprised that they can keep turning out and updating programs while they're going through a war. It's
Well, the CEO of Luminar I think he's in Portugal, last I heard. He couldn't bring some of his developers out because a lot of them are male, but some of the females were able to move to other places in Europe.
yeah. Well, we've covered
this
a
all
lot.
going to be settled according to the new president. He's going to take care of all this for us. So don't worry.
Yeah, but all right. Well, I think we covered a lot. We've lost a few people, but we've kept a few going.
Well, I think we had some really good questions in that and kind of detailed. So
Yeah, we got into a wide range of topics. That's the trouble when you don't have a specific topic or a speaker. And that's why I try to get speakers. I'll keep trying to get speakers every month for the rest of the year. Because I plan to keep this thing going for as long as I can do it, and that. So
I thought it was a good session.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for putting all the work, Jeff.
Yeah.
well, I didn't do much today. I had just a little bit on reflections. Brian helped with his question, and everybody else helped. That's what this group is about: is to have people come up with questions for us, and it makes me think. Because I just haven't had the time to do a lot of big demos, and I was going to do a December one video. I never did get that put out. I ended up in the hospital with pneumonia for a good part of December. So
That's no excuse, Jeff. Come on, what the hell?
I know, you know.
I may be able to entertain you next time because I'm about ready to upstart my new Apple M4 Mini Mac here. I've got it, and I just haven't had the time or the energy to think about it. So that's going to be my next project over the next week or two. So I'd be boring you guys with some stupid questions next time. So.
Oh, that's okay. My Mac Studio is at its 3-year life point, and I'm looking at one of those Mac Minis because they really are powerful with that M4 chip. So
And just a
At least
reminder,
they say they are. A lot of people love them. So
just a reminder, to Mac people, there is the Apple user group that I belong to, cwaug.org. It would be their website. We meet on the third Sunday afternoon of each month. And if you're a Mac guy and you have lots of questions, it's a great group to tune into. So cwaug.org.
all right.
yeah, I got to start coming now. I've got time to go to it. So
I guess Brian's checking out.
yeah, well, I think we're going to check out. We pretty much run down everything. I appreciate everybody with their questions, and bring. Well, next month we'll have Kevin Adams, so we'll learn about night photography and waterfalls. And but Marty, would you want to do March?
I thought we were having, was it Chris's March or is Chris in April?
No, Chris is April.
Yeah, I can do March, I think. Is that the same weekend is going to be as our chapter meeting? When is that? March.
Yeah, it's March, the third week, I think.
I gotta look. I can't tell you. I don't think that far ahead.
One weekend here, yeah. So that's March 16th. So yeah, I guess that's a week before.
It'd be March. Yeah. The 16th is chapter meeting. So yeah, it's the 22nd is the digital forum. So yeah, if you could do that, that would fill in my March, and then I'm through April. Right.
Yeah, because you said the guy.
Yeah, I got April, and I've got May with Nicole. So yeah, that would fill a hole for me, because it's so hard to get somebody in that short a time period. And heck, soon drone season is coming up.
Always drone season. Winter is really, it is. Winter is one of the most fun times to fly drones, as far as I'm concerned. You get some of the coolest pictures and whatnot. You just got to kind of work around the weather a little bit more. You can fly them in cold weather. You just got to be a little more cautious with it.
Yeah.
So Drone 101 is the title of that program.
Okay.
I promise not to drone on and on.
Yeah, well, that's my that's my username for different things when I'm on is Marty Drones on and on.
No, I think that would be good. I think a lot of people look at it. I keep looking to get a drone. I opted for a 360 camera instead of the drone because I knew I'd use that more than a drone. But
I'm waiting for the Osmo 4 to come out, and I'm going to look at that. Indeed.
yeah,
I think the 360, I wouldn't mind learning about the 360 camera too. And that, let's say for doing, I was supposed to do a photo shoot for Pilatus for an aircraft, and that, well, I didn't have a 360 camera. I think that would be kind of cool too, because people like to have the interior shots of houses, cars, or, airplanes, aircraft. I think that'd be kind of cool.
yeah. And that's what I bought it for. I want to shoot the interiors of buildings at our historical park. And you can set it up on a light stand or a tripod, and then you got 360 with one shot. And I'm still learning how to put it online. That's the biggest trick so far.
How long ago did you get the 360 camera?
I got it for Christmas.
Oh, okay. So very short.
Costco has it for like just under $500,
Okay.
and it's a 4K video camera and 72 megapixel file for still shots. So,
Okay.
but then again, it's 360. So once I can learn and actually get some shots with it, we'll do a session on it for people, because it's not an expensive thing to get into, and it gives you some interesting ways to look at things. I played with one a number of years back, a Theta one. I can't remember what company made that, but it was a lot of fun. My only problem with it is it had a built-in battery, and the battery went bad. It's really hard. I could get 2 shots and the battery would die. So, and it was more expensive to replace the battery than buy a new one. So I just finally decided I'm going to buy a new one. So
With your new one, can you remove the battery on that, or is that also an internal? Okay.
yeah, this has replaceable batteries and memory cards. The other one didn't even have a memory card built into it.
Wow.
It stored it, and you had to download it, so you could take 8 or 10 shots, and then you had to download it to your phone. It was a real pain back then. This is a lot easier to do, but I just haven't had time to play with it yet. So
You got the Insta 360 or something?
yeah, it's the Insta 360 version 4.
Okay.
So it's the latest one.
Yeah, I
So,
like to
yeah,
get one myself.
Yeah, we'll get into that one of these days too. So I just haven't had a chance to play with it enough to even know how to use it completely. So we will play with that. So with that, we're 5 minutes to 12. I didn't think we'd go this long. Sometimes it's fun just to go wherever the wind blows us.
Look out the window, it's blowing here.
Is it?
Yeah, we had a little bit of dusting last night. It's blowing off the roof, something fierce.
I was outside this morning, but I'm moving slow. I slipped and fell on the ice, and so I twisted my knee. So trying to heal up.
Well,
And
Jeff,
it
I
was a
guess
weak
I'll
knee.
Jeff, I guess I'll see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock at the hangar.
Yep, I'll see you at 4 o'clock at the hangar. So,
Yeah.
and with everybody else, thanks for coming, and we'll see you next month.